It's that time of the week. Yes, this week's Cult Movie Show, your weekly look at cult movies. Please welcome your hosts, Warren and Velvet.
Yes, it is most definitely that time of the week again. Welcome to podcast 34 of the Cult Movie Show with myself, Warren, and sitting beside me in the virtual studio, as always, is the charming Velvet. How are you today, Velvet?
I'm doing great. Every time you do the intro to the show now, whenever you get to your yes part, it always makes me think of Ethan, our friend Ethan Martin. Every single time now, I always think of him going, yay, it's so exciting. That's how I feel whenever we do those shows. So I'm glad that feeling's obviously contagious.
Oh, but yeah. It is. It's contagious. It's taking over the world. You know, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. I just see people walking down the street so excited, you know.
Yeah, they're excited and they're flossing. So
that's exactly right. It's a new movement. it's the movement. Oh,
it's funny that we're starting off so lighthearted because we have a lot of horror going on today. We've got all kinds of genres of horror going on today. Even our mini movie is a horror story.
Yes, so. We're getting very, very dark and very. I won't necessarily say frightening with a couple of examples, but it's we're definitely in that field anyway. So no, we've got some good ones. I think we've definitely got some cultish good ones. Yes. So no, I'm looking forward to talking about those. But before we get started, Velvet, we have a little bit of housekeeping. So what is it now? Isn't that how they used to start the news or something? Or something like that. Anyway, there we go. And that is that, of course, we spoke about Showgirls 2, Pennies from Heaven. Yes. I think it was a couple of weeks ago now. And we actually were in contact with Rena Riffle, who, of course, basically did everything in the movie.
Wrote it, directed, starred in it, edited it, everything.
And we had mentioned, of course, on the show that the movie is very long, 143 minutes or something or other.
Over 2 hours.
Yes,
over 2 hours.
And she actually let us know that there is a brand new cut of the film at 90 minutes. So if you want to sort of see it sort of cut a little bit better, in a much more compact, sort of format, it's available right now on Amazon Prime. So, there is a 90-minute version out there. So if you don't want to go through the 2.5 hours or whatever it was,
I'm actually curious to see that. Yeah, I'm actually curious to see that because when you do see an original cut and then seeing a shorter version, it's always fascinating how they were able to make the decision, okay, what can be taken out to make the story a little shorter and what has to stay in to make the story still cohesive. And I'm actually curious to see this cut. So I might actually have to set some private time aside from our movie reviews to actually check out the edited version.
Oh, look, I'm
curious actually.
I definitely will because I haven't seen the 90-minute cut yet. I'll be really interested to see how it all comes together. So I'm actually quite looking forward to that. So so that was just a bit of news, you know. Hey, we actually do have news on this show. Not very often, but sometimes, you know. Well, that was the first time, I think. Anyway.
I think it was,
Yeah, I got to make a big deal out of something.
Yeah,
no, that's exactly right. So, we are going to start, I think, today with a movie that we have mentioned on numerous podcasts, haven't we, Velvet? It seems to have come up in conversation over and over again. So we thought, look, it really is time that we should actually do this movie. And it is, of course, Dog Soldiers from 2002. And I have to admit, I really liked this movie when it first came out. I think it's aged a little bit, but then again, remember, it is, 15 years old now.
Right.
But rewatching it again this week, because I hadn't really watched it for about 10 years, I think, something like that. And, I I actually quite sort of enjoyed myself. So did you sort of enjoy the experience sort of before we give a bit of a rundown on the movie?
I did actually really like this. I was annoyed for half a second because I accidentally spoiled part of it for myself because we'll do minor spoilers on this movie as we do on many movies. And so I knew it was a werewolf movie, but I didn't know what the werewolves looked like. And whenever I was looking at something online, before I was getting ready to watch it, I accidentally saw one of the werewolves and I was like, no, I wasn't ready to see it yet. But it actually didn't minimize my viewing pleasure, I'm happy to say. So, yeah, this was an enjoyable film.
Yes, no, it is a good one. And so to give you everyone a bit of a short rundown on the film, it's set in Scotland. And although, interestingly enough, it was not filmed in Scotland. It was actually filmed in Luxembourg, of all places. I don't really know why, but anyway, it is set in Scotland. And our movie starts with a young soldier who's on a training course to sort of become part of an elite unit, a sort of special forces unit. And anyway, he fails the test because he refuses to kill a dog in cold blood, because he can't understand why on earth would he be asked to do such a thing for absolutely no reason. So, but we will find out later on the reason why. And of course, yeah, we know that werewolves are in this, so dogs obviously have part of it. So it's a bit of a giveaway. We then cut to a little bit later. And he's been RTU'd, in other words, returned to unit, to his basic sort of infantry unit. And they go off on a weekend exercise where they're meant to be working with British Special Forces to sort of sharpen their skills and all the rest of it. Well, it turns out that that's maybe not really what's going on. Maybe these squaddies, these British infantrymen, are actually being used as bait by these special forces operatives because they're hunting werewolves. Yes, I'm not joking. They're hunting werewolves. Well, anyway, I don't want to give too much away about it, but the whole idea is that basically the Special Forces unit gets wiped out except for one person. I don't think that's giving too much away. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, our squaddies then basically realise that they're in the shit. There's something after them in this forest. And so they pick up all the sort of the real weapons from the Special Forces. And, of course, they have to try to see out the night, and how many of them will survive and how many won't as the werewolves slowly hunt them down. They also will they will meet up with a young woman, meant to be a local woman, who will take them to a cottage where they will hide out. And basically, we will have this almost running siege with the werewolves outside the farmhouse and with the soldiers inside the farmhouse. So this is where it also becomes a little bit of a cross-genre film, where it's sort of like part war film, part horror film, which is a really interesting sort of take on a werewolf movie. So yeah, that's basically our story. So I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it, Velvet.
Yes, definitely. This is another one of those movies that if you think the werewolf genre is a little bit stale, this one has a slightly different take on it, so it's definitely worth checking out. The reason this movie's come up so many times on our show is it has Sean Pertwee in it, and he's quite fantastic in this, actually. He's really entertaining, he's very believable, and he actually offers up a tiny bit of comic relief in this movie, which is really needed, because there's a lot of action, there's a lot of suspense, there's the gore. I actually really enjoyed the gore in this. The gore was actually quite surprising.
Yes.
And it looked rather believable. You know, it has aged a little bit, like you said. Another thing I did like was, as we've already mentioned, this is a werewolf movie, obviously. I did like the way the werewolves look in this. This is another interesting interpretation of werewolves. They didn't delve too much into werewolf lore, but a lot of the things that you believe about werewolves are pretty much true in this movie for the most part. I also love that they did the whole skeptical, point of view where even though they're seeing this happening, they don't want to believe it. They're just like, no, these can't be werewolves. What is this? Like, seriously, what is this really? What is the logical explanation? Like, people don't want to believe what they're seeing because it's just impossible. It's like, this can't be real. But yep, there are a lot of things in the world we don't know and don't understand. And when you're faced with it, are you going to believe?
Well, it's interesting. The werewolves in this actually look a lot more like wolves. I mean, for instance, we spoke about another British werewolf movie a number of podcasts ago, and where they were actually a little bit more humanoid than they were wolf-like. Where in this one they're much more traditional sort of wolves that are walking, on sort of, just their hind legs, and they stand about 2 meters tall, 6 foot tall, something like that. So it's a bit more traditional. They also play with those old concepts of, you can kill a werewolf with silver. So, and a lot of those things are lost in the more modern telling. So this is a bit more traditional, like that. But you're absolutely right, Velvet, about the humour. Sean Pertwee, and also our other star, Kevin McKidd, who I think people will know. He's all over American television these days. They've got some very funny one-liners in this, which sort of break the tension. There's a great scene when one of the werewolves breaks into the house, and it's inside the kitchen, and they're fighting it off. And Sean Pertwee, he doesn't have a weapon with him, so he picks up and he's holding a stick, just like, like a stick, and he throws it and goes, "Fetch."
Yeah, I did like the humor in this because you needed it because there was so much action in this. I like the reveal too. Like, they make it very clear right from the beginning that you're probably dealing with werewolves, but they do a pretty nice slow reveal where they don't show you everything all at once. So that for a while it's just like, a claw here, some gore there, a person disappears, there's people screaming, and then you start seeing the silhouette before they finally do the full reveal. And I think that's very effectively done. There was a really unusual jump scare in this movie, which I'm still not 100% sure I understood. I may have just missed it. There's a scene where in the beginning they have the Scottish army guys doing their little training routine. They have no live ammunition because it's supposed to be a training exercise. So they're sitting around a campfire telling stories, and a cow, I cannot talk today. A cow carcass just like drops out of nowhere and like scares the shit out of everybody, scared shit out of me. And then they were just kind of like, okay, well, we're not going to worry about where this came from. I'm like, wait, did that fall out of the sky? Did somebody throw it? Did it fall out of a tree? Like, where did this, did the werewolves throw it at them? I didn't understand where this cow carcass came from. They didn't investigate it. It's like the Sean Pertwee character, and Sean Pertwee's meant to be the sergeant, so he's in charge of the section of, like 8 men. And when the cow, obviously it's meant to be that we think that the werewolves have thrown the cow over the cliff, or that we don't really know. To be truthful, or that the werewolves have attacked the cow and it's simply wandered and then fallen over the cliff. Who knows? But yeah, okay, so I didn't miss anything. It was kind of left up in the open, so you're never quite sure, which it was interesting because it did add to the tension because you never did quite know, and at the time you're like, what the fuck? But yeah, that made me jump out of my seat when this like bloody cow just all of a sudden dropped out of nowhere. Like, whoa! Oh my goodness.
But the other thing too is that this movie moves at a pretty fast pace.
Yeah, the pacing's really good.
It's never slow. It's always, sort of going. The music, I think, works really well.
I like the music, too. It had, like, this adventurous, exciting, suspenseful feel to it. Did a really good job of complementing the movie and enhancing the mood, creating the mood that they were going for.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. In fact, it actually, because when the movie starts, I suppose this is where we were talking, like about the idea of cross-genre, because it does have that feel more of almost a war movie with the music and with the soldiers and everything. But then, of course, it very quickly changes. But then it sort of changes back again. Like, for instance, there is a line in the movie where one of the soldiers is sort of on guard by the window, and he sort of says, "Oh, this reminds me of Rorke's Drift," and if anyone doesn't know what Rorke's Drift was, it was a very famous battle in British history where 100 British soldiers in South Africa took on 10,000 Zulus and won. And so it's written itself sort of into British folklore. And and a lot of people have spoken about the fact that this movie, in a small way, actually tells the story. If you actually go and watch a movie, which is called Zulu, which is made in the 1960s, you'll see a lot of events happening in this movie which to my mind have been copied straight from the film Zulu. Like for instance, in the movie Zulu, when they're trapped in the hospital, they dig their way from room to room through the walls, okay. So they can escape. Now, they're doing exactly the same thing in this movie. They're digging through the walls, through the floor to move from room to room when they're under attack from the werewolves. So, and even the fact that they mention the Zulu War. And the other interesting thing, too, about it is that when he's talking about Rorke's Drift, the music that starts playing in the background is Men of Harlech. Men of Harlech, stand you steady, and all this sort of stuff. Now, that, of course, is straight out of the movie Zulu. So it's really interesting how they wrote that all into the movie. But in saying all of that, though, I don't want people to think that this is the story of the Zulu Wars. It's not. It is a werewolf film, right?
Yeah, it's totally a werewolf movie. Yeah, big time.
But it's just that they did use a lot of British war sort of references, in it. But the other thing too, what did you think about the football match? The never-ending discussion about the football match, which they were so upset because they were going to miss the football match.
And we have to throw this out here for my United States American listeners. We are talking about soccer.
Yes, soccer.
We're not talking about American football. We're talking about soccer. But I thought that was funny because, we have people that are just as fanatical over here about American football. But there's also, people that are also fanatical about soccer. But for me, it would always be, I always see, like when he first said, the footy, I'm like, he's not talking about American football. He's talking about soccer. So my brain always has to click over for half a second when I hear football, because I always have to go, okay, which country we're talking about? Okay, now I know what the ball looks like. Is it shaped like I'm like, is it a pigskin or is it shaped like a round ball and is it black and white? What kind of ball are we talking about? No, yes. But it was funny because, this guy's basically saying, hey, I'm serving my country and I have to miss the football game for this. It is a running joke in the movie, and they even at the very end of the movie on rolling credits make a nod to this joke, and that it's definitely worth staying around for the credits to see that.
Oh well, yes. Well, actually, just before I talk about that sort of gag towards the end, and I think we can talk about it a bit without giving too much away. There is also the character played by Kevin McKidd. He, of course, has a great football line in it because, of course, when he kills one of the werewolves, he actually uses the line, "You think it's all over? Well, it is now." And, of course, that's straight out of the World Cup, the Soccer World Cup. It's a very famous British line.
Oh, how funny.
So the thing is that there are, I suppose, for a lot of listeners who don't follow soccer football, is that, there are a number of references in this that you may not get because they're directly linked, to soccer. But it's, but I think it's great, the way they did that. But this running joke, because of course, one of the things that they do when they're fighting off the werewolves is they've got a flash camera. So they're going click, 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 taking photographs using the flash to try to stun the werewolves. But of course, at the end of the movie, and I won't tell everyone how the movie ends, but at the end of the movie, after the credits or during the credits, we get to see the photos.
Yeah, you get to see the photos of the werewolves. And they're pretty cool.
And I thought that was very, very, very clever. Yeah, I thought that was sort of adding that little bit of humor at the end.
Yes, and the werewolves, again, in this movie are really cool. First off, they're very sentient, which is not a type of werewolf we see too often in movies. So these werewolves are very aware of technology.
Oh, yes.
And they know that if they sabotage our technology, we're kind of fucked. So that was interesting to see them constantly doing that in the movie. And I think there's even a scene, not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure this is what happened. There's even a scene where a werewolf shoots a rifle off camera.
Yes, it does.
Yes,
a werewolf does. A werewolf. It is fantastic. A werewolf rips the shotgun out of the hands of one of the soldiers and then shoots at the soldier with the shotgun.
But the way they did it was so smart because they did it off camera. You saw the shot come through the window. So, I mean, because it would have fucked it up if you saw the werewolf do it, because then you would have been like, oh, fuck this movie. This is stupid. That was so effective, doing it off camera and having the shot come through the window, and you were like, whoa, did a werewolf just do that? Yes, it did, my friend.
It's not.
And also, again, the werewolves, the way they look too. This movie didn't use a lot of CGI, so the werewolves are actually animatronics and body suits, and they used stilts to make people look taller. So I was just like, wow, that's actually really cool. Very good practical effects.
I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the movie is from 2002.
Yes.
But I think the thing about it is that, you know, I love it. I love it when they do this sort of stuff and don't just rely on CGI. Because I often think the end result often looks better. You know, although we're now at a stage in 2017 where CGI is so good, that, you know, it doesn't really matter. But back in 2002, CGI wasn't really quite at the point where they could have done this with CGI.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, no, I think they did a fantastic, you know, job with the, you know, with the werewolves. And, of course, we will have a bit of a twist in this movie as well, because, of course, they're in this farmhouse, right, fighting off the werewolves. But, of course, where are the family that live in the house? Now,
and they actually, I don't want to spoil that twist. If anybody didn't catch it just now, if you didn't catch the twist, good, because I honestly didn't catch it right away. I thought they did a very effective job of not, like, what should be honestly so obvious for me, some reason was not obvious right away, and I thought they did a good job of distracting from that.
Yes, they do, and I don't want to say any more about it, but I mean, it's right. I hope I've given too much away. But you know, I mean, hey, look, this movie is from 2002. You know, I mean,
exactly.
So as we said, there are going to be some mini spoilers. You know, I mean, we're never going to give away the ending of the film, but
unless it's a horrible movie, and I always love to spoil the ending.
Yes.
I always love to spoil the ending on those because I'm like, don't watch it. Here, I'll tell you what happens.
I think there are some we've talked about. You know, where giving away the ending really didn't matter. You know, but in this one, you know, it does have a bit of a, you know, twist at the end. It doesn't necessarily go exactly where you think it's going to go, although it does seem to sort of follow a path. But, you know, the twists will get thrown in and will throw you a little bit that you weren't necessarily expecting. So, no, look, I really thoroughly, you know, enjoyed it. I'd really recommend it to anyone. And the other thing, too, is that, you know, in the early thousands, you know, the late 90s, this was sort of the time when Britain was starting to sort of put out a lot of horror, you know, which they hadn't been doing for a while. And, you know, we would get movies like The Descent, you know, we would have obviously Dog Soldiers. We would get, you know, a lot of different movies. And so this is really all from that sort of time. I think if you've seen The Descent, then you'll like this, because it's many of the people who in fact worked on Dog Soldiers would of course go on to work on The Descent. It's it's got a lot of similarities, I think, in the way it's shot, the way it's edited, the way the music into sort of Rats. There's a lot of like orchestra type score music, which is used very similar to The Descent. So, which, as we said before, I think works really well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. I also like their use of shaky cam in this, because so many movies now use shaky cam and it ruins the movie. You can't tell what's going on. It confuses you. It's just annoying. And they did a good moderate amount of shaky cam in this. It added to the action, and they also used it to show the perspective from the werewolf's view. So like sometimes it would do like shaky cam and it would be in black and white for a moment. And I was just like, oh, that's actually really cool. So a simple yet effective.
Oh, yeah. I did like the fact that we would often see what was happening from the werewolf's perspective. Yes. I thought that was, sort of clever. I did quite like that. And it would sort of go to night vision, when it was from, as you're saying, in black and white. So it was, that was it. That was really well done, I thought. I don't really have any real faults with this. And of course, it stars the great man that we absolutely love, Sean Pertwee. So,
And he's really good in this. And he actually looks really young in this. I know this movie is from 2002, but he looks like really young in this. Like, he looks really handsome, actually. And I was just like, oh, wow. I was like, this movie isn't that old, but he's, I don't know if he's just had a lot of stress or he's not wearing the sunscreen, but yeah, he looks quite a bit older now in the stuff I've seen him in recently.
And the other
thing. He looks really good in this, really youthful.
Oh, yeah. He does look good, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He does look good. And the other thing, too, I love the casting in this movie, because I think everyone is cast really, really well. Also, the performances, I think, are really, really good. I mean, Sean Pertwee just looks like a British Army sergeant. He just...
he does.
He really does. He really does the way he talks. And then you've got Kevin McKidd, who's like the very clever soldier who really... probably should be an officer, but isn't. He doesn't have the education clearly to be an officer. But the thing is that if he had that education, he'd be a great leader, because, he does become a great leader.
Right.
And the other thing too, that what I really love about it is that, there's a great line in it by Sean Pertwee where he's, talking about, what's happening and all the rest of it. And he makes the comment, and he said, when I signed on the dotted line, the idea that I would give my life for a cause, I meant it, and I fully believe in it. And I really thought, I really liked that, because, quite often in these movies, the soldiers are often portrayed as bumbling buffoons, or, or one of them turns out to be a coward, or, we all have these things. And it wasn't like that, because in this movie, the soldiers start off to be, well, to be honest with you, they would rather be anywhere else other than on this stupid exercise. It's the weekend. There's this football match which is on. And of course, we should also say that the football match is England versus Germany. Now, of course, for the English, that's the highest level of football there is. England versus Germany, right?
That's like Superman versus Lex Luthor.
Yeah,
it's just the ultimate nemesis.
Even though the Germans, interestingly enough, don't see it that way, their great nemesis is Holland. But anyway, the English, their great nemesis is Germany. So they want to be anywhere else other than this stupid exercise. But then when the shit hits the fan, they all stand up. Their training kicks in, and they're all magnificent soldiers. And I really like that. It's like, because they went the other way. Instead of having in these movies where these people are all gong ho, and then when a shit hits the fan, they're not really all that good. In this movie, it's like the reverse. They're not really very good until the shit hits the fan. And I like that. I thought that was much more realistic, much more realistic.
Yes. Yes. They, as we've mentioned before, this is actually a Scottish film. It was filmed in Luxembourg for whatever reason. That's just where they secured their location. But they're supposed to be in Scotland. So of course, all the actors are speaking with their, natural Scottish accents. And I have to admit, I hate to say this, but I did make use of my closed captioning for this movie because the accents were a bit heavy for me. And so you go through that transition period where like the first half hour, you're just like, I understand about 20% of what they're saying, but then by the end of the movie, you're almost full on fluent in Scottish. But yeah, make use of those closed captions whenever you can if you're having a little trouble in the beginning. They do throw out a little bit of Scottish slang here and there that I'm not familiar with. Somebody was complaining about midges at the beginning of the movie. I don't know what midges are. I was like, well, I'm glad that I put on my caption so that when he said midges, I was like, okay, he did say midges. I thought he said midges. I wasn't sure. And now I know he said midges. I still don't know what it means, but at least now I know I'm not mishearing.
They use a lot of British slang in this. They talk in slang, oh my God, continually and all the rest of it. So, but I think, it is interesting though that you actually, maybe there's more of a closeness between Britain and Australia than there is between Britain and the United States. And I think that's why, and I think that's why Australian audiences, I don't think will have quite as much difficulty. I think you guys
will be all right.
I have to admit, if English is your second language, there'll be so much slang in this that you may have a little bit of an issue trying to understand it all. But I do like that though, because they're talking the way that people really speak.
Yes. Yes. That was fun for me too, honestly, because, so many films you see, for most of the werewolves movies I have seen have been in pretty much American English or, British English. We don't hear many other offshoots of English in werewolf movies. So this was fun to see a Scottish werewolf movie. I was like, I can tick that off my list.
Yes. So it is really good. I really thoroughly enjoyed this, and I'd really highly, recommend it to anyone.
Found out something really interesting about this. I wonder if you knew about this. So in 2011, the writer and director of this movie, Neil Marshall, he actually wrote a pilot episode, Dog Soldier's Legacy, in 2011, and he was going to try to turn it into a TV show.
Ah, okay.
Did you hear about this?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah,
I didn't hear about that.
I was like, that's interesting. So it only ended up doing a pilot episode, so it only made one episode, and unfortunately it didn't get picked up. It aired on September 11th, so what we in the United States call 9/11, and I'm not going to go any further than that, but I thought that was an unusual air date. But it was 9/11/2011, so 10 years after the fact.
Yeah.
But I was like, how interesting. This might have been a TV show. So there's a parallel universe where Dog Soldier's Legacy is running on primetime right now. So,
wow.
And it's written by the director and the writer of this movie.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
that is interesting. But don't worry about the 9/11 thing. Because I know a lot of Americans might sort of think, oh, why would you do that on that day? Well, a lot of people have got to remember, for our American audience, 9/11 has a slightly different meaning outside of the United States than it does inside the United States.
But this was supposed to air in the United States. This was a pilot
for the United States.
I'm sorry, I didn't make that clear. Yeah, this was a pilot for the United States. And I was like, oh, that's odd.
That's a big deal.
But it kind of makes me wonder if that might be why it didn't get picked up. Maybe it just didn't air on the right day and not enough people saw it because they were busy doing other things that day. And I was just like, huh.
Yeah, who knows?
Like I said, parallel universe. Maybe it got picked up in the parallel universe and we got Dog Soldier's Legacy.
Interesting stuff, though. Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Also, if we are going to rate this one, Velvet, where are we going to go?
Oh, right quick, before I even do rate it. Once again, the gore in this was really quite good for the time. And Oh my God, that one scene though, I don't want to ruin it for the audience. Let me just say there was a brutal accidental death.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I'll just say tree branch.
Yes.
And I was just like, oh God, that made me cringe so bad. I was like, oh, that poor guy. That's terrible. What a way to go. But yeah, so great movie, a lot of fun. There are just two slight things about this movie, but I don't want to say what they are because they'll give away the plot. But I'll talk to you off camera, that kind of knock it down for me a little. And, they make really good use of dog and werewolf yelps in this. Anytime a dog or a werewolf gets injured, they do like that dog yelp sound that always makes me cringe so bad. But yeah, great movie, really original, a lot of fun, really exciting, an interesting take on werewolves. And if you like army films, like you said, Warren, it's kind of a cross genre film. So out of a possible 5 Eric Roberts, I'm going to go ahead and give this 4 Erics out of a possible 5 Eric Roberts.
That's pretty good. And, we're talking about coincidences before. I'm going to give it 4 Erics as well.
Right on.
Because I think that there are some little issues with it, but and also that it's aged a little bit, but it's still really good. It's really well done. I would recommend to anybody, to watch this. This is, if you like werewolf movies, this is definitely one you've got to watch if you haven't seen it. So, no, absolutely. I will give it 4 out of 5 Erics. And I suppose I'll just leave you with the one of my great favourite lines from this when, Sean Pertwee gets, attacked by, one of the werewolves. And shall we just say there's a lot of him hanging out. Okay. At this stage. No. Okay. And Kevin McKidd comes running up and he goes, "Oh, I'm binned, mate. I'm binned." And Kevin McKidd sort of says, "Don't be stupid. We'll just push them back in." And he goes, "They won't fit." Then Kevin McKidd just goes, "Well, they came out, didn't they? Of course they'll fit back in." Oh dear. So it does have, there is, even with extreme violence, there is actually quite a lot of humour. So,
yes.
And I really did quite like that. And it's very British humour too, I must admit. So, it's thoroughly enjoyable. So, no, I'd absolutely highly recommend this to everybody.
Definitely.
Most definitely. All right. Well, we will be right back with, and I think everybody knows what's coming. Hang on to your seats. We'll be right back with a mini movie review.
It's time to get excited, short film fans. It's mini movie review time.
Yes, it is. And what offering have you found for us this week, Velvet?
So this week, this is actually from a YouTube channel called How Bizarre, and they make short horror films. And this one is actually from last year. They released it in July of 2016. It is called What Happened to Ken Coffman. It has a found footage style to it. The short runs a little over 10 minutes. And honestly, this is one of those kind of stories that it could be considered a little generic and not all that special, but for some reason this creeped me out so bad. And I was just like, okay, we have to review this because I don't know why it creeped me out so bad, but it did. So it's called What Happened to Ken Coffman, and it starts off with, black screen, white text, and it claims that in March of 1998, Kenneth Coffman went missing in Illinois. Basically they don't know what happened to him. It's a cold case. And then sometime later, they found this videotape that was sent to a Catholic priest, and we get to watch the video. And then they have commentary from the priest, and you get to see what happens on these videotapes. So again, this is actually a rather generic story in the found footage genre. But for some reason, it really creeped me out so bad. So what did you think about this, Warren?
Well, I think, firstly, too, we should actually say this is American. Illinois is a U.S. state. Just for those.
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
I thought I should just say that.
That's why I have you to help me with my housekeeping.
Yes. Illinois is a state of the United States. Yes. So,
forgive me for that.
Yes. So
missing in the United States.
Yeah.
There we go.
just for our non-American listeners who don't know all the states. How many states have you guys got? Is it 50?
We have 50 officially, but we also have several territories.
Ah, okay. So just for for everybody else. So I really quite liked it because I thought. I mean, look, this story couldn't have carried any more than 10 minutes. It was a little bit too simplistic, really, to have carried on any more. But I have to admit that it is spooky in the sense of when he sets up the camera on remote in his bedroom and we see what is happening in his bedroom while he's asleep. Now, that is spooky. And I think anyone would find that spooky because it's one of the great terrors, isn't it? Of human, what happens when you're asleep? What happens around you, so that is actually, kind of spooky. So, no, definitely I liked it, but I would say it is very simplistic in its story. Yes. But then oh, pardon me. Oh, dear, pardon me. Do beg my pardon. I just hiccuped. I'm so sorry. But it's it is good. I really did like it.
I honestly didn't think you would because this one has a very religious theme to it, and usually I'm not into that kind of stuff either, but I thought it actually went in well with this one. And this is also one of those type of horror shorts where it doesn't give you a definitive answer, so it kind of lets you think of a couple of theories on your own. There's also the use of a dream catcher, a Native American dream catcher, in this, which I thought was very interesting. Are you familiar with Native American dream catchers?
Yes, I am. I am. Yeah.
And so I thought that was interesting. For most people, or for people who aren't familiar with that, basically it's that they're supposed to trap your nightmares, they're supposed to protect you from bad spirits while you sleep. And without giving away much of the story, there's a scene where, Ken Coffman knows something weird's going on, so he decides to start setting up a, camcorder to record him while he sleeps. And we start seeing some weird stuff on the video. And there's one scene where the dream catcher above his bed falls off the wall. And I was like, oh, that's not good.
Yes, I know.
That's not good. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I know that I think I've mentioned this on the show before, that I often don't find the religious elements of movies scary because I think most people know by now I'm not religious. So the thing for me is that I'm not frightened by something I don't believe in. Right. So the thing is that, and I think I've mentioned before on the show that everyone talks about how scary The Exorcist is, and I just don't find it scary because I think you've got to have a belief in something for you to believe that this could really happen. If you don't believe it could happen, then you don't find it scary. It's a little bit like if you watch an old 1950s black and white movie with a giant spider the size of Texas walking around, right? You don't believe it because it's so unrealistic. And it's sort of the same for me because I don't have faith. I don't find anything which is religiously based scary because to me it's nonsense. So, but I also do understand that for probably half of the world's population who are religious, then when you start to play with these ideas, it is very scary because you're playing with something which to them is very real.
Right.
And when you start to play with something which is very real and you believe in, then it's going to scare the shit out of you.
Exactly, definitely. And I'm with you on this. I'm not very religious, but this, I don't know, this short creeped me out so bad when I watched it. I think this is one of those, for me personally, I think it just has a couple elements in there that creep me out anyways. Like, first off, it has a suicide theme, and anytime suicide themes are in movies, I'm always really, that disturbs me really bad for some reason, especially if they do any kind of imagery related to it. And this one, there's more mention of suicide than actual showing of anything, but that's already enough to put that in my brain. And then, like, they have the creepy drawing. I hate whenever they show people without eyes, and he's basically drawing this thing that has giant black holes for eyes, and that creeps me out.
Yes.
And then just the whole, okay, sleeping, and there's some shit going on in your bedroom while you're sleeping, and then you see it on a video. I'm just like, it's like the boogeyman. I'm just like, this is so scary.
It is actually that's actually a very good analogy. It is a bit like the boogeyman, although I have to admit though, because I enjoyed it, but I didn't find it scary, if you get what I mean. But I still enjoyed it. Right?
Oh, but this freaked me really bad.
But one thing I will say is there's a certain character in this movie, and I'm not going to give too much away, but I'm just going to say there's a certain character in this movie who is dressed almost like that traditional concept, we have of death, the Grim Reaper is what I'm trying to say. Okay, and but the problem is that after watching numerous episodes of Saturday Night Live, whenever I see that character now, instead of being scared, I now start to laugh. Because all I keep seeing in my back of my mind, I'm just watching it going, oh, it's Steve Bannon. And I thought and that was really bad, I suppose, when my reaction when I'm watching this movie, when I'm meant to be freaked out, and I'm actually starting to laugh because I'm giggling in the back of my brain and I'm thinking about Saturday Night Live. So, dear me.
It's good you said that, though, because if anybody watches this short and they start getting creeped out like I do, you can just say to yourself, it's just Steve Bannon. It's just Steve Bannon. just repeat that over and over.
Now, and obviously to any of our listeners who are big fans of Steve Bannon, I'm talking about the way he's portrayed on Saturday Night Live. I'm not talking about the man himself, okay? No. I'm talking about a comedy sketch. A comedy sketch, okay? I'm not making a political comment. So I did find that a little bit funny, but but trying to get back to seriously about what is meant to be a serious short. It's really good, and I do recommend people watch it. It is a little bit simplistic, but it's still good. It's still good.
The acting in this is rather mediocre. I want to mention that too. So come on, give these guys a break. This is a short film working on a small budget. This is a YouTube channel, and I mean, this is everything on their channel are shorts that they have made. So give them some credit here. But I did like this short. I thought it was actually really quite entertaining for what it was. I mean, very
absolutely.
short, very simplistic, but oh man, so creepy. I can't get over it.
And I think the other thing too is that, of course, we are both lovers of found footage. So it was really nice to see a short that was found footage. So, so I think that was sort of really, really good. I have to admit, I didn't find the priest very believable.
But that's if you go to the YouTube channel, and I love to read YouTube comments, that was a lot of people's biggest complaint about this short is they were not a big fan of the priest acting. So like I said, cut them some slack. And this is a low budget short. This isn't Kung Fury with $500,000 in its pocket.
Yes.
So so listeners, give this short a chance. Don't hate on them too much. It's actually quite well done. You work with what you got when you're making a short with no budget.
No, that's exactly right. So do we have an address for this one?
Yes. So you can go to their YouTube channel. I'll give them all the little social media shout outs here so you guys can pick your favorite form to go watch this. So you can check them out on their actual website, which is howbizarrechannel.com. Howbizarrechannel.com. You can go to their YouTube channel, which is How Bizarre Series. And you can also follow them on Twitter at How Bizarre TV. So go ahead and check it out. This one is called What Happened to Ken Coffman. And tell them Cult Movie Show sent you.
Absolutely. And please do that.
Definitely, yes.
We need the work. I think that's how the line goes, something like that.
It's like, no, we stand on a street corner with a sign that says, we'll review movies for food. That's how we do it.
Yes, but please, people, I want to retire my tin cup. So, I'm only joking. All right. Okay. We will take a quick break, and then we will be back with our second main movie review. Yes. Oh, it's playing. Good. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back. And movie number 2. Well, this is... I don't know how to describe this. It is definitely a B grader. I think that's really pretty fair. It's a creature feature, but my God, there's a lot of humour which is thrown into this one as well. And it is Sand Sharks from 2011. Starring, what's his name again? Corin Nemec. I think that's how he pronounces it, Corin Nemec.
Yeah.
Who, of course, I think most people will remember from his time in Stargate. Of course, he was one of the regulars in Stargate, but of course, he pops up all over the place on US TV. And it also, of course, stars Brooke Hogan. Yes, well, Brooke Hogan has done a couple of B graders now, and I must admit, for Brooke Hogan fans, you won't be disappointed. Once again, she's in the cut-off super tight denim shorts once again, as she is in most of her films, which of course is normal dress for a marine biologist, which I think is what she's meant to be. You know, most marine biologists walk around in cut-off denim shorts and bikini tops. Well, in Brooke Hogan's world, they do anyway. So Sand Sharks. Look, our movie is basically set in an American town which is on an island just off the coast. So I think it's meant to be sort of playing a bit of fun with. Do you remember Jaws? Because that was meant to be on an island off the coast. So I think they're having a little bit of fun with that Jaws thing. And it's about sand sharks. Now, sand sharks, of course, it's a real term, for a different, for a type of shark. But of course, they take this to a totally different concept where the sharks actually do live under the sand on the beach. And they're huge too. I mean, these things are like 30 foot long. Their dorsal, fin, stands. I mean, how tall are the dorsal fins on these things? They're about 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
And of course, as they swim through the sand, we see their dorsal fins, go around. So anyway, this island becomes infested with these giant sand sharks that start, of course, killing everybody who goes to the beach. Now, the character of Corin Nemec is meant to be the son of the mayor of the town, and he's sort of meant to be a bit of a, what would you say, like a Flash Harry? He's one of these.
I don't even know what you call it. Just one of those scumbag promoters. It's always like, if you give me $10,000, I'll give you back $50,000. But then it always like, didn't work out, but we can try it again. Here's another investment idea.
And so he's sleazebag, basically. So he's always trying to come up with some get rich quick scheme and and promote some great event, and make money out of it. So anyway, he decides that he's going to throw this huge event on the island. So of course all these young, college students will come. They'll, of course, hang out on the beach, listen to music, get drunk, and of course spend lots of money in the town. Well, of course, they are hindered a little bit by these sand sharks, and after a number of deaths, Brooke Hogan, our marine biologist, is called in by the police to try to see if she can solve the issue. And of course, after numerous deaths, all of them will team up, of course, in the end to try to take out the sand sharks and save everybody on the island. What are your thoughts here, Velvet?
You know, these kind of movies, I always look forward to them, but honestly, when I watch them, I have so much trouble, like, keeping my attention. I get really bored with these really easily because they're really funny and they give you what they want, but at the same time, they're so simple. I like the whole sand shark concept. It's actually quite funny. As is typical with these movies, they waste no time showing you the sand shark. Like, within the first minute of the movie, you get to see somebody eaten by a sand shark, and it's actually really, I think it's actually really well done. It's really fun CGI to see that these boys are riding these dirt bikes on, at first you think they're like in the desert or something, because there's just like sand everywhere, these sand hills, sand dunes, and they're riding these dirt bikes over them, and it actually looks really cool. And I'm like, oh, that actually looks kind of fun. But then all of a sudden you see like the shark swimming through the sand. You see its dorsal, it's like 6-foot dorsal fin sticking out, and you're like, uh-oh, sand shark. And of course it does not disappoint. You know, he rides his bike like right into the sand shark's mouth, and you're like, oh, yep, that's what I thought this movie was going to be about, and it is. The acting, as usual, it's pretty simple. It's not bad, but it's not good. It's actually above average for this kind of movie, I think. Most of the people in this actually act quite well, and a lot of them actually just say fuck it and ham it up and make it really entertaining. Like, my favorite character was Angus, because he sounded like Popeye. He was just that old sailor, seen it all, seen all the sea creatures, knows how to hunt the sand shark, and that dude was just talking like good old classic cartoon Popeye the Sailor Man.
Yes, he was, wasn't he?
It just cracked me up every time he was talking. Brooke Hogan was actually, for what her role is and how badly cast she is, but it's always a sexy scientist in these movies, and she's actually quite decent. I thought her acting was actually pretty decent for what she was working with. So yeah, it's a fun movie.
She's not too bad. I mean,
yeah.
I think the casting though just doesn't really quite work in regards to Brooke Hogan in this movie. I mean, the other movie I've seen her in, of course, is Two-Headed Shark Attack, where I think it works much better because she's meant to be like a university student. So that I can see. That sort of works. But in this movie, she's meant to be a marine biologist. And look, nothing against Brooke Hogan, all right, or anything like that. I'm not saying that she's not intelligent enough to have been a marine biologist if she wanted to be. But it just doesn't seem believable. And I think the other thing too is that one of the reasons why it doesn't seem believable is because of the outfit she wears. I mean, she just doesn't seem to be dressed like somebody in that role probably would. She seems to be dressed all the time more like she's going for a day on the beach, rather than investigating this sort of thing. The other thing too is that whenever the police asked her a question, her response is always, oh, I need a bit more time for testing, DNA and all this sort of stuff. And it's always, well, what do you think? What tooth does this shark come out of? Oh, I need more time for testing DNA and all that sort of thing, and then sometimes she starts talking about history and all sorts of weird bloody concepts.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
And it's like, well, is it a shark or isn't it a shark? So
she's like, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I
need to run some more tests.
This movie is so cheap. This movie's so cheap, though. I mean, it just makes me laugh. Like, there's one scene it has the two, like, they've told people, hey, if you catch this land shark, we'll pay you money, a reward, whatever the bounty was. So you got two, like, basically fishermen, but two hunters are in a boat in shallow water, and all of a sudden they're like, oh no, the shark's here, and like they stand up in the water barely comes up to their knees.
Yes,
so
I know.
How the hell is the shark in the water?
It's
it was a sand shark, and it could just, I don't know, do whatever the fuck it wants, I guess. But it just made me laugh. I was like, what?
This movie does get to a stage where you actually start to think, is this serious or is this a comedy? Because the other thing too is that Corin Nemec in this, I don't know if he was meant to ham it up in every scene, but he
was taking a piss in every scene.
But he literally takes the piss out of his character continually. Just his facial expressions, the way he speaks, the things he does. and also when people get eaten and there's half a body and there's intestines and all this sort of stuff, and the way he tries to like put people back together and I also and this movie too makes great use of the flying blood, like the blood splatter.
Yes.
But in this they don't just blood splatter with maybe you might sort of say maybe a litre or a pint of blood or something like that. No way. On this one, they'll use about 20 litres and just pour it all over the actors.
Yuck.
I mean, it's so, and they'll just be standing there with bits of intestine on their shoulder, and it's just like, oh my God, you will get to a stage in this movie where you actually will start to laugh quite a bit, in numerous scenes. And that's the other thing too, is that this movie actually reminds me a lot more of things like Sharknado or La Valantula, where they're not actually dead serious. They're actually, making fun of the genre at the same time. Where a lot of B-grade creature features, they actually do try to be very serious. This one does not try to be serious at all.
No, not at all. This movie even mentioned another shark movie because, at first, they're like, hey, if you catch the shark, here's the bounty, we'll pay you money, a reward. And this one guy, takes a dead a dead stunt shark. There we go. And he says, this shark was an actor in Shark Attack 3D.
Yes, I know.
I was like, did they just plug another movie?
Yes. I know. Well, and of course it is it's great because of course they bring in what is it, a dead shark from an actual B-grade shark movie and pretend that was the shark. It is good. It is really good, but I have to say, this is not one that you'll be taking seriously. This is one that you'll be laughing as much as you'll be as anything, because it is hammed up, so much. Although I have to admit, though, Brooke Hogan actually plays it quite straight. I would say, but definitely, Corin Nemec. Oh my God! I think he just went into this and just said,
he hams it up so much. And that fucking Angus guy, the Popeye character, I couldn't take him seriously at all. Every time he was speaking, and he's like, I've seen it all, and I'm going to get that shark. And it sounded like Popeye. It just killed me every time he was speaking. Oh man, I did like the way they were killing the sharks in this movie. Don't want to spoil it for people, but I will say halfway through the movie, they blow up a shark, and I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty impressive shark explosion. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's not bad. The CGI isn't too... Some of the CGI is a bit, how's your father? It's a bit cheap. But some of it every now and again, it isn't too bad. But their way that they come up to kill the sharks in the end, I'll just say it's an original idea. It's not an idea
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not an idea I've ever seen used before in a movie. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I was that's really original. There's some funny musical moments in this movie, which I was not expecting. They're using music to draw in the land sharks so they can trap them, for their trap. And they played a Flight of the Valkyries.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting to hear that song. And then we even get a nice a cappella singing performance from Corin Nemec. I do mean that sarcastically. And he treats us to a rendition of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. It's just like, oh, God, is this really happening?
That's right, which we should say happens because the electric wires to the speakers break, so he has to try to attract the sharks. So instead of Ride of the Valkyrie, we get Row, Row, Row Your Boat.
Row Your Boat.
Yeah.
This was quite entertaining. Like I said, these tend to not hold my attention very well. I find that I try to pay attention and take notes, but I end up kind of playing on social media and playing games on my phone while I'm watching it. It's just, these are one of these movies I can't just sit and watch the movie if it's one of these. It's too simple. It's too silly. It's fun, but it's more of, instead of sitting here taking notes when I watch these type of movies, these anything Sharktopus, Shark anything crazy shark movies. I need to just start, opening up a bottle of champagne and a box of donuts. That's what I need to start doing, because it is so hard for me to sit there and take notes on these.
But I
these
think
are more of a have a snack, have a laugh kind of movie, not for serious analysis.
But I think these movies are designed for that. They're designed for a group of friends to sit around with some drinks, watch it, laugh, make fun of it, and do all the rest of it. So none of these are ever meant to be
pure
taken.
Entertainment.
Yeah,
pure entertainment.
I mean, and there's so many of these movies, now. I mean, the rebirth of the B movie industry, over the last 20 years. I mean, the B movie industry now has just exploded. There are so many B movies being made again now, which, I think is absolutely great. And we're seeing some amazing concepts, like Zombie Shark and Ghost Shark. What is it? Piranaconda. I mean,
oh my God.
We're just getting some fantastic titles coming out, and
that's awesome.
It's great, because it's not like 25 years ago, we'd get B grade movies here and there, but now they're just running them off like they used to in the 50s. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah. And I mean, it is fun because, now with CGI and special effects, and also there's a whole new appreciation for the genre. Like, they don't try to be something they're not. They know what they are. They know they're a B movie, and they make it very B movie-tastic. You know what you're getting when you go to see these, which is really entertaining.
Oh, absolutely. And I would say to anyone that if you are not really into B movies, but you have got onto the Sharknado bandwagon every year. Every year when there's a new Sharknado movie, people hold little parties, they get together and they watch it, on Sci-Fi when it comes out. And I would actually say that if you are sort of person that does that, but don't really generally watch B graders, this is a good one to check out though, because it's very much like Sharknado. It's tongue-in-cheek. There's a lot of humour. Okay, it doesn't have the cameos, for instance, that the Sharknado movies have in them, but it's got the same sense of humour that Sharknado has, and so I think you will, I think people would like that. The other thing too is I'd say to people who have sort of got on the Sharknado bandwagon, check out La Valantula as well, because in fact in La Valantula,
these names,
what is it? Is it Ian Ziering actually makes a cameo in La Valantula where Steve Guttenberg? Steve Guttenberg is trying to hunt down the lava, giant spiders, and while it's happening, they run into each other on the street, and he sort of says, "Oh, can you help me with my spider problem?" And Ian Ziering sort of says, "I can't right now. I'm sort of dealing with a bit of a shark problem," and then they just run off in different directions. Absolutely fantastic. That's great. But if you like those, definitely check this one out because it's in the same vein. I mean, look, like I mentioned Piranaconda before. Okay, something like that doesn't have the humour, all like the Python movies and all of these. These are actually made to be dead serious, where this one's not. So, so maybe give this one a try, even if you're not really into the B grade creature feature. Right what on. I would say.
There's a character in this movie I also want to mention. Not so much the actual character, but the actor. And I'm sure you caught this before, too. If you watch the credits of this movie, even in the opening credits, you're going to notice one of the actors is named Edgar Allan Poe the Fourth. Did you notice this guy?
I didn't notice. No.
Okay, let me bring you up to speed on this guy. This guy's an interesting person. So this guy's been acting for a minute. He has 34 film credits, and yes, that is his real name, is Edgar Allan Poe the Fourth.
Right.
He started acting in 1988, and he's acting, all the way up into now. He actually even played Edgar Allan Poe, and in the movie Monkey Bone from 2001 with Brendan Fraser. There's a very small scene where they have, basically it's kind of this dream world, and Edgar Allan Poe lives there because the Raven tricked him into living there. And the guy actually plays Edgar Allan Poe for a hot minute. when you go to the credits of that movie and it says, all the actors who played who, and it says Edgar Allan Poe was played by himself, Edgar Allan Poe IV. Yes. So, and it's interesting. If you go to the IMDb, he does not have a headshot on his IMDb. So it's very mysterious.
Interesting. All right.
I don't know. I was hoping you had some info on this guy. I haven't seen his name pop up in a while, and I was like, oh, that guy. And he played the character of the mayor. That was the mayor.
Okay. I know who he is now, yeah.
In Sand Shark. So in Sand Shark, that was the mayor in Sand Shark.
So I know who he is
Edgar
now.
Allan Poe the Fourth.
Yeah. Who I have to admit sort of does, has a very, I think, a very interesting exit from the film, shall we say that?
Yes. Very.
Sort of, and, like in true B movie style, ripped straight out of another movie. I would say, what was the movie with, if you've seen Sam Jackson die in
Deep Blue, was it called Deep Blue Sea?
Deep Blue Sea, I think it was Deep Blue Sea. Yeah. If you've seen Sam Jackson die in that, then Edgar Allan Poe the Fourth will pretty much go in identical circumstances. But what is funny though, what is amazing though about that death scene is not so much that you'd say, oh, it's a straight rip off of Sam Jackson or it's well shot or anything like that. It's the reaction by Corin Nemec, who is just like he's just there, sort of going, where, what, how, why, oh, it's like. It's just he just and that's the thing all the way through this movie. Even when they get to a very, very serious moment, Corin Nemec will just take the piss out of it and turn it into a comedy routine. It's just it's amazing.
He does.
Oh God. Yeah, so good, so well done.
So yeah, this is definitely a fun movie.
Oh, without any doubt. So, have we got any other things to sort of mention about Sand Sharks?
I think that was it for this one.
So, I suppose we should rate this one. So, this is going to be fun. So, how are you going to rate Sand Sharks, Velvet?
So yeah, this is a B movie. What you see is what you get. It says Sand Sharks on the box cover. Yes, and it's very literal. It's B movie at its finest. It's fun. It's entertaining. It does fail to hold my attention completely. I have to be doing something else to really, just remain in front of the screen to take it all in. But it's worth checking out. So out of a possible 5 Eric Roberts, I'm going to give this a very nice rating of 3 sharks. Sand sharks, that is.
Oh, 3 sharks. Wow. Well, I'm okay. Now you're not going to be expecting this. I'm going to give it 2.5.
Oh, you did catch me off guard.
Yeah, because I think it's I think for me it's like when I watch a lot of these, I actually want them to be a bit more serious, to be truthful.
Okay.
I mean, look, as I said before, I'm on board the Sharknado wagon, absolutely. But for the rest of them, I sort of often like them to be a bit more serious. A bit like, remember when we did Kraken, Tentacles of the Deep, if you remember a couple of weeks ago.
They played that shit serious the entire time.
Yeah, and I actually, to be honest, I actually prefer it where they play it seriously rather than actually ham it up, So because of that, I'm going to give it 2.5. But in saying that, though, fuck, it's funny. It really is funny. I mean, I would almost say that this is actually a comedy rather than a serious film because it is hammed up so much. I
actually took it as a comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't take this movie serious at all.
It's you might say a lot of movies are funny unintentionally, but this one is definitely meant to be funny. Oh
yeah, big time.
Yeah. So I'll give it 2.5. I don't know, Jory grins. Yeah. Yes, I have to admit there is a scene in this where we actually get to see the shark attack, not from the shark's eyes, but from inside the shark's mouth.
That's right, they did do that.
Which is a little bit like, who the hell can see from inside the shark's mouth? You know, it's like, oh god. But then unlike the other movie of Brooke Hogan we spoke about, Two-Headed Shark Attack, which actually is played dead seriously, unlike this one. And I think I once mentioned when talking about Two-Headed Shark Attack that, of course, it stars Brooke Hogan with extra special acting credit to Brooke Hogan's boobs.
Oh my god!
She's just in a bikini for the entire movie, you know. So, but at least, unlike, in that one, I do remember when she does battle with the shark in the end, you can actually see the rubber teeth of the shark. You know, it's like they're flexing and bending when she's actually fighting with it and all the rest of it. Where in this one, the sharks are 100% CGI, where in Two-Headed Shark Attack, it actually isn't. The underwater stuff was CGI, but the shark's head, when they fight with it, was actually, it was real. So, well, not real, you know what I mean. It wasn't CGI.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Brooke Hogan didn't actually fight a two-headed shark. just
wouldn't that be something? Oh
yeah, just for the history. So, all right. God knows. Oh God. Oh God. Anyway. Look, I love you, Brooke. You're fantastic, Brooke Hogan. You definitely put a smile on my face whenever you're on the screen. So. Oh, dearie me. All right. Well, I suppose we should take another quick break, and then we will be back with our final movie of the podcast. And this is an interesting one. Well, movie number 3. Now, this offering is from Japan, and it is called The Audition from 1999, and it is described as a horror film. I don't know if that description is 100% right. It's going to be really interesting to get your thoughts, Velvet, on all of this. It's an interesting movie. It came out sort of around about the same time as, like The Ring and Dark Water, and all of those very, very well-known, Japanese horror films. But this one is very different to what those are, I think would be fair to say. Now, it's the rough idea is it's a story of a man and his son. Now, the movie starts with, I think it's meant to be, was it 7 years earlier before the film is sort of running. We see that he loses his wife. His wife dies. And so he, of course, brings his son up alone as a single parent for the next 7 years. Now it's 7 years later, of course, and he's starting to feel that he, like a lot of unmarried middle-aged people, I suppose, are finding themselves quite lonely. And his son suggests that it's time that, you get remarried. So he works with one of his friends who works in the entertainment business to come up with this plan where they're going to hold auditions for actresses, and it will be their way to try to meet women. Now, he does meet a woman in this. Now, her name is Asami, I think. Asami. And he does fall for her, and we think that she does fall for him. So we're sort of thinking, okay, everything is going to be good. And at this stage, you're sort of thinking to yourself half an hour in, is this a love story or is this a horror movie? Where is this going? Well, about halfway through the movie, apart from a couple of little things which are going to throw you earlier in the film, it starts to get a little bit spooky, I suppose. The story starts to change. After they go away for a weekend, sort of a romantic weekend away together, she vanishes. She disappears, and she won't return his phone calls. He has no idea where she is. She's just disappeared. And so he then starts to try to find out where she is, but he realizes he actually knows nothing about this woman. And also, all the things that she said about her life don't appear to be true. Or if they are true, they happened many, many years ago, not sort of current. So he will eventually basically track her down, and things will not work out the way he was hoping they were going to work out. Would that be fair? Do you think, Velvet?
Yeah, that's a very good summary, and yeah, definitely want to put some emphasis on that audition there because that's how this movie gets its name. This movie is interesting the way I ever even saw it. What happened was, okay, so this movie came out in 1999, but I didn't see this movie until about maybe 2003 or 2004. And what happened was I was watching TV, and this was the month of October, so the month of Halloween, and this amazing cable channel put on the most amazing countdown ever. This was back when those were really popular, when like so many television stations would do, the top 10, this, which is now so popular on the internet, which is funny, but we used to do it on TV. So this one cable TV channel did the 100 scariest movies of all time. And it was amazing. It had so many celebrities on there, people talking about all these films. It was super nostalgic. But once it got to the top 10, and this took forever. Like, this thing went on, I think, for a couple of days. So they had to do it in segments because they gave you like full on.
I love it when they do that stuff.
10 movies would take an hour. Yeah, I love it. Like 10 movies would take an hour. So when it finally got to the top 10, I was like, I'm going to know all these movies. Audition was in the top 10. And I was like, I have never heard of this movie. And several of the celebrities that were talking about this movie were saying how scary it is. And this is like, you've got to see this if you love horror movies. For me, what sold it was it had Rob Zombie. Not that I'm like a humongous Rob Zombie fan, but what he said. This guy's a total weirdo, right?
Right.
This guy's a total weirdo. I mean, he's done the remakes for, Halloween. He's done The Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses. I mean, and if you see the guy, he's a pretty odd dude. He said, when he watches horror movies, usually he watches it and he's like, okay, whatever. He said after he watched this one, it made him feel weird.
That's an interesting response.
And I was like, okay, I have to see this movie. So at the time, Netflix did not have streaming. This was not, Netflix is not what it is now. Netflix was not, online streaming. And, we didn't have all the options we have now to see movies. So you really had to, go into hunter mode to go find movies. So at the time, I was lucky enough to have Netflix. And they did have Audition on their DVD plan. So I had, put in my order with Netflix, and they sent the DVD to my house. I watched this movie. And remember, this movie came out in 1999. I saw it probably around 2003 or 2004. At the time, this movie traumatized me. This movie traumatized me at the time. But you also have to think of it this way. The special effects, the attention to detail in this movie, and also this was kind of like we didn't have the entire whole torture porn, and gore isn't what it is now. So our tolerance wasn't what it is now. Like now we see like the most gross stuff and it looks real, and we have that tolerance built up. So at the time, in my early 20s, I didn't have this tolerance yet. I hadn't had that much exposure to really gory films. And just there's an intense torture scene in this movie. And even now, it still creeps me the fuck out. It's pretty tame compared to what we see nowadays. But I think it still holds up quite well for what it is and when it was made.
Yeah, it's. I think the problem that I had with this movie is that it was thrown in with all these other really famous Japanese horror movies, like The Ring, for argument's sake. And the problem was that, for me, the original Ring, that is the original Japanese one I'm talking about, that is a really spooky film. That is a really scary film. And the thing is that when I first saw this, went into it sort of thinking I was going to see a movie along those lines.
No.
And it's not. This is just. No. I'm still not even too sure. Because I don't actually. I'm still confused a little bit with this movie about whether there is some element of supernatural. Sort of supernatural element to it, or if there's not. I don't know whether there is. Whether we see in some ways the dreams of our main character, or whether this is something which is actually psychically being sort of put to him. I came out of that actually quite confused.
Okay. So, I mean, film's always open to interpretation, so I'll just tell you mine. This movie does have a very non-traditional narrative. And as you said, calling it a straight-up horror film, I agree. It's not just a straight-up horror film. It's definitely got themes of drama and mystery and even love story in there. And as you said, this movie runs just under 2 hours. In the very first hour, you think it's just a love story. Then only throughout that 1 hour, there's little bits and pieces that hint that something's coming. There's actually quite a lot of foreshadowing in this, but you probably won't catch that foreshadowing the first time you see this movie. I've seen this movie several times. Yes. I love it. I still love it to this day. And now I see that foreshadowing, and I'm like, oh, they were warning us. Oh, they knew it was coming. Oh, so, yeah. If you compare it to any of the, supernatural films, I agree. This honestly doesn't belong in that category at all. It's a very non-traditional narrative in which they use dream sequences to give the audience information and background on the characters to let you know what's happening. So that's how it's not supernatural at all. It's just the way that the director Takashi Miike, honestly, another movie he directed, because originally when I saw this, I'm like, oh, I'm going to see another one of his movies. I saw the next movie. It was called Ichi the Killer. That movie fucking traumatized me at the time. And after that, I was like, I'm not watching any more of this guy's movies. All his fucking movies traumatized me. So I think now I have, now I'm older and I have more gore tolerance and that type of thing. I think I can handle it. But yeah, when I very first saw stuff from him, it's not the stuff that you're used to, and your brain just doesn't know how to process it. But yeah, I don't think it's a supernatural film. I think he's just using dream sequences to tell the audience, okay, this is why this character's fucked up.
Because there's a certain scene where a certain character falls down or is pushed down the stairs, and something the way her body reacts when she's fallen, to me, sort of almost does suggest that there's something supernatural about it.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
But then again, it once again, I just may be interpreting it differently, to the director. I mean, as I said, I'm a little bit confused by that, but I do agree with what you're saying, is that this movie, in many ways, it's nothing like, let's say, The Ring. It's actually more like Saw. Would you
so
think
there's torture. Yeah, there's torture in this. Yeah, there's torture in this that's really it's even now it still makes me wince like crazy. And that that torture scene at the time, and that's really the climax of the movie, so I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it and wants to check it out. And at the same time, I want to also give people the warning, don't get your expectations too high. It traumatized me at the time because, like I said, but now if you watch gore movies all the time, you're not going to be that affected by this movie at all, probably. You're just going to be like, what's the big deal? But you just have to keep in mind, this is, I was younger, and technology, we were still flipping the fuck out over The Ring when they had that little girl coming out of the TV. That scared the fuck out of us. We hadn't seen anything like that. The special effects were out of this world. But now, a couple decades later, technology's changed so much and we're so used to it that it takes a lot to really fucking wow us now. But at the time, this was kind of the beginning of that transition of, okay, stuff's not looking fake anymore.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting. When I first saw The Ring, when it came out, I have to admit I was genuinely quite freaked out by it. Freaked out by the concept of the visuals they were showing, you know.
Right.
But if I watch The Ring now, for argument's sake, I honestly could just have it on in the background. And
exactly.
it doesn't freak me in the slightest anymore. So, you know, definitely movies have moved on. And I do think that what you're saying, that when this movie first came out, I think it would have been much freakier and much scarier to audiences than it is if we watch it now. I would agree with that.
Yeah, so this movie is definitely a slow burn, but it's not boring. At least I didn't think it was. I mean, would you agree with that?
Oh no, it's beautifully shot. It's, and also the story of the character development is actually really interesting. You know, I found myself becoming quite interested, you know, in the characters. I wasn't bored, you know, by any means. I wasn't sitting there sort of saying, "Oh God, can this please speed up?" Or, you know, or please be over, you know. So the only thing I would say is that for a lot of people, you know, you literally have to wait halfway through this movie before it starts to get spooky. You know, you will be waiting an hour before it starts to get spooky. So, so just a heads up to anyone. You know, this is not, you know, this is not like, you know, The Ring where the phone rings in the first 5 minutes of the movie. You know, this is, this will take a while, you know, to get to that bit. But it's also been, I know a lot of people have written about this movie, talking about the fact that is it a statement of sexism? Also, is it reversely a statement about feminism? In the sense that obviously this woman, and once again, I can't give away too much, but the idea is that, is it a story of women empowered to the extent where they try to take revenge on people who have done the wrong things by them, or is it a statement about how horrible men can actually be towards women quite often? You know, where, like, for instance, in this, where they give these women false hope that they're going to be cast for a movie, which of course doesn't even exist. The whole thing's just a plan to check out sexy women and, you know, and this sort of thing. So, and I've heard that, you know, I've read online, there's a lot of discussion about which is it, or is it both? Is it a statement of both sexism and feminism? It's a statement that, you know, it's like, if you're going to do the wrong thing by a woman as a man, hey, you know, sometimes there are some women who are not going to let you get away with it. You know?
Not the truth.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's one of the things I like about the first half of this movie. This movie's very, very Japanese culture. And I think, you know, when I watch this movie, I've seen it in English with, I've seen it in Japanese with English subtitles. And there are just a few sentences in the movie. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but there are a few lines in the movie where I'm just kind of like, in United States American culture, that doesn't make sense. So I'm thinking, okay, that's obviously very, you know, part of their culture. But yeah, there's a lot of, they want women to be, I mean, just in this movie, I'm not saying Japanese culture as a whole, but in this movie, they're talking about arranged marriages. They're talking about women being obedient. I mean, they want women who are very demure and innocent. I mean, there's some very set guidelines for what a perfect woman should be, according to the protagonist. But at the same time, what I like about the first half of the movie, they do take a really long, hard, concentrated effort showing you that the protagonist, that Shigeharu, the man, the widow, is actually a really, really, really nice guy. And he is really looking for love. Like, he is like, and he's ready to, like, the moment he falls in love, he's ready to marry this girl. Like, they make it very clear to you that this is a nice person and he has good intentions. auditions.
yeah.
And they even show you that he feels guilty. He feels guilty about the way he is meeting this woman. So I want to throw that out there. I think that's really well done. I love that part of the movie, that they really put that effort in there. So you really sympathize with him.
Oh, no, absolutely. He's not a bad man. I mean, obviously, the audition itself is a bad thing. I mean, it's
totally.
It's an evil
totally
thing.
Not cool.
It's an evil thing. It's
Totally
very
not
uncool.
cool.
It's not the right thing. Obviously, these women have all been used by these guys.
Yes.
But in saying that, apart from that one mistake that he's made, which he does, as you quite rightly said, Vel, he does feel guilty about as the movie progresses. But other than that, he is a genuinely nice guy. Is he a bit sexist by modern standards? Well, I would say yes, clearly he is. But at the same time, he's meant to be, he's a middle-aged man in what, 2002. So let's put that into, I mean, he's you've got to put that into perspective. He's just a product of
his culture.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Exactly.
And the other thing too is he doesn't want a woman to be a slave to him.
No.
I mean, in fact, he mentions things that he wants women to be independent to a certain degree.
Yes.
He wants them to.
Yes.
I mean, yes, there's the sexism in the sense that they've got to be cultured and all this sort of stuff. But he also wants them to have careers, to have. He wants them to be able to do things by themselves and not be reliant on him. So yeah, I think for 2002. Remembering too that this is Japanese, I don't really think he's out of place or really a bad person. But then again, the movie is clearly saying that he's doing something wrong to which revenge needs to be taken.
That's an interesting thing. Also, there's a lot of interesting themes in this movie. One of them that I picked up was, and even like they say this in the movie, at one point his friend says, "Don't be fooled by beauty." Don't be fooled by beauty. And his son says, "Love is blind." So I thought that was interesting too, because all throughout the movie there is foreshadowing that people, or situations are telling him he probably shouldn't pursue this one certain woman. Like, even right from the beginning, his friend's like, I don't know, there's something about her.
Yes.
There's something about her. But he couldn't pick up on anything because he was already it was almost love at first sight for this guy.
Well, he basically,
so tragic.
Yeah. I mean, he sees her photo and obviously becomes extremely interested at first. He then reads the essay that she submitted to, to be in this movie. And it's the essay that he actually falls in love with, to a degree.
Right.
And so, yes, you're quite right. When everybody around him is saying there is something not right about this woman, but he's in love, so he can't see it. And I'll tell you what, I've been there. Have you been there, Velvet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
where you enter a relationship with somebody where everybody around you says it's a bad move. It's but of course you can't see it. You can't see it. Because love, as you said, blinds you to often to
those
reality.
Flaws.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, that is. That is very, sort of very interesting. The other thing too is that, I mean, for instance, he's very open with his son. He lets his son live a very adult sort of lifestyle. And the son is meant to be 17, so he's not even an adult yet. But he lets him, live a pretty adult life. So he's not a bad guy. He just makes this one mistake.
Right, and I love the relationship between the father and the son in this movie. It is very open, and it's the kind where you just enjoy watching them interact. It makes you like this guy even more. Like I said, they did a really good job of making this protagonist very likable. So that I think that's also maybe why I was so traumatized at the time, because so many movies, especially now, there's not a lot of character depth, and so many movies like you've heard me say when we review some movies, I'm like, I don't care about these characters at all. And I guess in a way I didn't know it at the time, but I care about this character and I hate seeing terrible things happen to him. And he gets some really terrible shit happening to him in this movie. And I think that's why at the time it had such a fucking effect on me. And even now, this movie still makes me cringe. I love it. There's a lot of crazy build up. Like, it is a slow burn, but oh my god, there's a love scene, but not by our traditional standards. You don't see them, get naked and going at it per se, but like the build up to the sex scene in this movie, I find it really suspenseful. It makes you nervous and it makes you uncomfortable. At least that's how I felt. Like, how did you feel when they were finally alone and they were building up to this sex scene?
The whole way that they interacted with each other was very, I don't know, I found it a bit uncomfortable. Their discussions just didn't seem, although they seem very real, but
they seem very formal, didn't they?
But then again, there could be a bit of a lost in translation moment here.
That could be.
Obviously with, the Japanese are much more formal, obviously, than, let's say, most Western cultures generally are. So I think that could just be a bit of a lost in translation moment. But
that could be.
But I just felt that they fell in love with each other instantaneously. It was love at first sight. And I'm not too sure I was convinced by that when I was watching it. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I need to watch it again.
Well, it's like I said, the first time I saw this movie, I was just fucking traumatized, and all the stuff I'm talking about now, I did not get out of this movie the first time I saw it. I've seen this movie a couple of times over the years, and only after seeing it several times have I been able to come up with all these thoughts. But the first time I saw this movie, it just, like, pardon my vernacular, it raped my brain. I was just like, I was like physically assaulted by watching this movie. It was just like, because there's so much weird stuff going on, and it just kind of comes out of nowhere all of a sudden. And this guy's so nice, and he's experiencing this awful situation, and I'm just like, so I think even for this film from 1999 and the special effects being what they were at the time, even watching it now, it's still a lot of there's a lot going on.
Look, I would say to anyone, if you're not a big fan of Japanese cinema, I think you might find this a little bit difficult. But if but if you do like Japanese cinema and you want something which is more story driven rather than just freak you out, then I think you will like this. But if you're just expecting The Ring, then you're going to be a bit disappointed, I think.
Yeah. So notice we're talking a lot about the first half of this movie, and we're not talking a lot about the second half, simply because I think it's really hard to discuss the second half without giving a lot of stuff away. And a lot of the stuff that happens in the second half is like, those are the surprises. Those are the things that really stick with you and that really have, cemented this movie as a cult, film. But some of the themes in this movie, many of us can relate to. I mean, there's themes of loneliness, dating is hard, trying to find the right person. One of my favorite scenes in this movie that I think a lot of men, sorry, I'm going to be a little sexist and say that, I think a lot of men kind of miss this, because especially back then, this was still more women wait for men to call. And there's a scene in this movie where she is waiting by that phone for his phone call, and it is causing her a lot of mental anguish. Let's just say that.
Yes.
And I'm just like, wow, I love that they touched on that, she's waiting for this guy's call. And that's probably part of what's driving her insanity. Like, I don't want to tell too much about the story, but let's just say, even though he's trying to be a gentleman and play it right, I mean, he was unintentionally feeding her psychosis.
Yes,
unintentionally.
She's already lost her marbles long before she met him.
Totally.
Yes,
totally.
I mean, the way...
He was not the cause of it, no, definitely
not. I mean, the way that she had been treated, it appears but not only men, it appears that her mother literally allowed her to raise herself, from what we can sort of gather. So she built up this routine where she would spend multiple hours just sitting alone in a room doing nothing, literally just like a vegetable switched off. And that, when you see her as a child doing it, and then you see her then as a woman who is meant to be, in her sort of late 20s.
I think the character's supposed to be 24.
24, okay, so mid-20s.
Yeah.
But when you see her, and it's like, so it's now meant to be like 17 years later, and she's still doing the same thing. She has no friends. She has no family. She has nobody around her. And all she does when she's not, going to this, audition or going out to dinner with him, she just sits there in this. It reminded me a bit of another movie that we reviewed, if you remember. And of course we had the actress on the podcast, who played the character. And,
Grania McDermott. And he's talking about, I Know You're in There. You can check out episode 22. And, episode 22 for that one.
And when you remember her playing that role, when you see the character in this movie, it's so similar, the way she just sits there lifeless, and you would imagine that she's sitting there for days in this position.
Oh my God.
Until the phone rings, and then suddenly she comes back to life. It's almost like she goes into hibernation when she's not, God. It is, and that does get kind of spooky, I must admit, the way she does that.
Yeah. There are some spooky scenes in this that, oh my God. I mean, I don't want you to give them away, but were you surprised by some of those spooky scenes?
There's a jump scene actually even before we find out what's going on. I must admit, where you do sort of say to yourself, all right, this ain't just a love story. Something pretty bad's going to happen.
They throw you a bone, like in case you're getting impatient. They do throw you a bone, like there's a certain, something's coming.
There's a certain thing that happens in her apartment which makes you realise, yeah, all right, okay, just be patient. This is going to turn into a horror movie. So we get those little teasers, and I've got to admit, there's one in there that did make me jump when it happened, this is a good film, but I will say it's not going to be for everybody.
No.
I think a lot of real, horror, gore type people, I think, paranormal type, horror people and that sort of thing. I think they're going to be watching this film and they're going to get about an hour in and they're going to give up. I think that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to do that. And if you're expecting, as we said, this big paranormal horror type thing, you're not going to get it. So
no.
In some ways there is some similarities even. Remember, I know another one of your favourite films, Velvet Botsing Helena.
You know what? Anyways. Long story short, I've noticed a lot of movies I like have amputation in them, which is really fucking weird, and I don't know why that is. And I just noticed that recently. I literally just noticed that recently. I'm like, what the fuck is up with all these movies that I like have somebody losing a limb?
Yes, it had dawned on me. Yes, I had noticed.
I never noticed until recently, and I'm like, that is so bizarre. Because it's funny because when we were picking our movies this week, I had picked this one. And sorry, guys, that was a minor spoiler, but we're not going to say anything else about amputation. We'll let you figure it out when you watch the movie. But it was funny because when we were picking our movies this week, we picked Audition, and then I was like, there was another movie I really wanted us to review, but right when I was getting ready to say, hey, let's do this one, I realized, let's save that one for later, because I was like, I don't want to have two movies that in it in this episode. We need to space them out. But yeah, we almost ended up having two movies with that in it. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? It's really bizarre. I don't know why that is. It must be some like subconscious fear of mine, and that's why I think it's so horrific. And I'm like fascinated by it in movies. I'm just like, oh, that's terrible.
So watch out for the spin-off podcast, Velvet's Amputation Specials.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to have to do an episode where we do our top 3 amputation horror movies.
Oh my God. I mean, it's like, you hear a lot of people talk about, the top 3 ghost movies, top 3 monster movies. I'm yet to hear anyone come up with the list of the top 3 amputation movies.
Wow, that's like a subgenre right there. There you go.
Oh my goodness.
God.
Oh my goodness.
Crazy. Okay, we'll get off this subject and we'll go to this. So the movie is called Audition, and without giving away too much, as we've mentioned, the way he meets this girl is this guy has a friend that basically helps produce movies, get them off the ground, and he sets up an audition of women, but this guy handpicks the applicants. Like, our protagonist handpicks 30 applicants and he auditions them. Now, he doesn't do this in a nefarious way, but it's very much like, in asking them personal questions. What do you do for a living? Have you been to school? Do you have any brothers and sisters? Like, stuff you wouldn't ask somebody at a film audition. But these girls think that these are just casting agents that are trying to get a fix on their personality to see if they're right for the role. So I actually really love the audition scene. It's rather lengthy, but there's a lot of humor in it. And it's also, there's a lot of humor in it. And also it shows you that Shigehara is essentially a good guy. Because, in the wrong hands, if somebody had this kind of opportunity in the wrong hands, they could totally abuse this and use this. And, he could have been dating every single one of those girls. You know what I'm saying? But he chose one, and he treated her like a princess,
That's true. Some of the women turn up wearing nothing but a bikini. I know one of them
got naked.
Gets naked, but I have to admit, there was a funny scene where the question is asked about movies or like they say, there is a love scene in this movie, or something or other, and then one of the young sort of actresses makes the comment, what I have a friend that does adult movies, and I have thought about doing adult movies, but I'm not too sure. And then his friend leans over to the cameraman and sort of says, just remember her name for a different project.
I remember that.
And I thought, yeah.
That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie is, the audition scenes. Actually, it's rather lengthy, but it's really funny. And it's just used to establish that this guy is overall a nice guy, that he's not taking advantage of the situation to the point that he could if he was a real sleazebag, but he's not. So, but yeah, I love that scene. And this movie, I'm so glad that we reviewed this and got to watch it again, because I haven't watched it in a couple of years, and I was like, I still love this movie. I think it's just still, it's just an experience. It's just, you don't realize what you're getting into, because it really does kind of fool you and think, it's going to be a love story. Then it throws you that small bone during the first hour, and you're just like, whoa, wait, what was that?
Yes.
What the fuck was that? What is this? And then, the last hour of the movie, it just, gets deeper and deeper into the story, and you're just like Warren said, you're just like, I'm not sure I understand this movie. I'm not sure I know what's happening. And then it's only after I've seen this movie several times over the years that I've, been able to come up with the thoughts and opinions that I have on it. But the first time, no, you might leave this movie being like, I didn't like it. I hate this movie. It made me feel gross. Or you might be intrigued to watch it again. I originally was traumatized by it. I was like, I will never watch this movie again. I absolutely hated it the first time I saw it. I was traumatized at the time. I'm not trying to oversell it, but that's just how I felt at the time. But now, a couple decades later, and what we see in gore now, and there's no character development, there's no original storylines. I mean, this movie is, I love it.
Yeah, I don't think I loved it as much as you did, but I definitely enjoyed it.
Good.
I definitely enjoyed it. One of the things that one of the things I'd love to do as well, because we've obviously talked about a number of Japanese movies on this podcast, but of course, especially when it comes to horror, the one part of Asia we still haven't tapped into, which we need to on one episode, is of course Thailand. Because Thailand made a shitload of horror films. They adore basically, paranormal horror films. They, they make a huge amount of them. And of course, because Thai culture is, of course, very, very different to Japanese culture, the religion and everything is totally different. So you get a very, very different style of movie. And I reckon that's something we've got to look into as well.
Absolutely. I've honestly not seen any Thai horror, so I'm definitely looking forward to us delving into that eventually.
They tend to be a bit cheaper, I have to admit. But they're generally sort of the paranormal, but also, Chinese movies too. Another one I really want to, do a few more of, as well. So guys, don't just think we're only ever going to do Japanese films when it comes to Asia. We are actually going to expand.
We'll be doing Korean horror too, because there's some Korean horror films I've seen that I was just like, wow, these are amazing. Just like original storylines and just amazing.
Oh, look, yes, Korea is another country. In fact, I almost forgotten. That's terrible of me. How dare you, Warren, forget Korea?
Well, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of countries in the world.
Oh, my God. But when you're talking horror, you cannot forget the Republic of South Korea. South Korea produces huge amounts of horror as well. And a huge amount. I don't know why, too. Australian Netflix is packed with Korean movies and TV shows.
Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky.
Yeah, I don't really know why, because it's the dominant sort of Asian cultures in Australia is Chinese and Vietnamese. So I'm not too sure why Korean is so. But Korean movies and TV shows in Australia seem to be hugely popular. We're going to have to look into that as well, I think. So, here you go. We're planning our next shows live on air.
You guys don't want to get in on that conversation. We'll start talking about a movie, then we'll talk about something else for an hour. Then we'll okay, well, what movie were we talking about an hour ago?
We do tend to get distracted very easily, don't we? So, all right. So to wrap up the audition. Now, obviously, I know you're going to rate this one highly.
Oh yeah, definitely. So if you're looking for this movie, you're most likely going to find it just as Audition. So in case you're kind of like typing in the Audition, you're having trouble finding it, just type in Audition 1999 and you'll be able to find it that way. This used to be available on the United States Netflix streaming program. It's currently back on the DVD plan, I believe, but you'll be able to find it through other avenues. Anywhere you can watch movies online, you'll be able to find Audition. For example, I'm pretty sure it is on, lost my page there. Yeah, it is on Amazon Video, standard definition for $2.99, so you can watch it there if you're dying to check it out. Going to give it a very high review, and out of a possible 5 Eric Roberts, I'm going to give this a 4.5, but I'm also going to say proceed with caution. It's a slow burn, and it does feature torture. So I just had to put that out there.
Yes, I think for me, I'm going to give it a 3.5. 3.5 Erics. I think as far as a piece of cinema, it actually deserves higher marks than that. But the problem for me is that slow burn at the start of the movie takes too long. It's just, that build up of their love story. So it's a little bit like, how we talked about Dog Soldiers was a bit of a cross genre, sort of crossing horror with war, although obviously war is horror, but you know what I mean.
Totally.
Where this in some ways is almost the same thing. It's crossing a love story with a horror story. It's like the first half of the movie is a love story and the second half is a horror story. So, so I think because of that, it's not that I didn't enjoy the love story. I actually did. I just think maybe they could have cut 20 minutes off it or something, and maybe brought the movie down into an hour and a half. And I think then I probably would have enjoyed it more. I mean, once he,
I almost forgot to say. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on. I just remembered something I wanted to mention, but I'm sorry.
I'm finished. No. Go for it.
I almost forgot. Actually, you know what? I almost forgot. This movie actually would have been just a hair shorter. Originally, when there's the torture scene in this movie, originally the movie was supposed to end right at the beginning of that torture scene. And the director was talked into, no, do a complete torture scene.
Okay.
So just a fun little trivia tidbit for you guys out there. But yeah, I was just like, oh wow, this movie wouldn't have traumatized me.
Well, there you go. If they'd have done it that way. The other thing too is that like so many. Look, you can barely not name a Japanese horror film that Hollywood hasn't attempted to remake, so,
right.
And apparently they did actually look into making an American version, of the Audition, but it just never came to fruition. But apparently, there was an attempt to actually remake it, just like Dark Water, just like The Ring, just like The Eye, just like, you just rattle them all off,
I don't
can't
want them
you?
to remake. No, this one does not. Yeah, this one does not need to be remade. This one they can leave alone, definitely.
Well, actually, in my opinion, none of them needed to be remade. I mean,
right.
if you want to watch a movie like The Eye, go and get the Japanese one and watch it. You don't need to see the American remake.
Right.
It's just. I'm still amazed. There are so many people out there who have seen the American Ring and never seen the Japanese one.
Right.
And it's like just, I don't know. We've ranted and raved about this topic before, so I won't do it. I won't do it on this podcast, but give the originals a chance. Seriously.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And also don't be afraid of subtitles. If you're a slow reader, just, pause it if you have to, read the sentence. Do whatever you have to do. This one's pretty well captioned. I think it gives you enough time to read what's going on. So give it a try.
Oh, yeah. No, it definitely, yeah, it's worth a try. Definitely worth a viewing. Yeah, no doubt about that. All right. Well, I think we've sort of come to the end of another podcast, Velvet.
Woohoo!
So, and I can't believe it's number 34. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, number 34.
Good stuff.
So, so I think as we do at the end of every show, what do we do again?
All right, let's go ahead and do our shout out.
Yes.
So go ahead and follow us on our social media at Twitter and Instagram at Cult Movie Show. You can also tweet us or private message us any of your movie suggestions and requests. And also, if you have a short film that you would like us to review for our mini movie segment, go ahead and email us. I get so confused with all the social media and the email. Anyway, go ahead and email us, cultmovieshow@gmail.com, cultmovieshow@gmail.com. Or you can also tweet us or private message us on Twitter at cultmovieshow. You can follow me, Velvet, on my social media on Twitter and Instagram at OMG It's Velvet. I do post adult content, so please be 18 years or older or be at least a fan of amputee horror films. You can follow my co-host, Warren, on his social media at Twitter. At Twitter, he is Martini Super Dry, so at Martini Super Dry. You can also listen to our show, Cult Movie Show, on not on Twitter, on iTunes and YouTube. Oh my goodness. We need to hire somebody to start doing our shout-outs.
I know. We really should. That way, just press a button and we can just sit back and we can go and we can head off and have champagne and donuts while it just runs in the background.
Good. Or some wine and cheese, that works.
Wine and
too,
cheese,
so.
yes.
Depends on the movie.
Correct. Very true. Very true. Is there a wine of choice for amputee horror?
Oh, well, of Bordeaux, of course.
Yes. I was hoping you would say a red. Yeah, no, good.
Of course.
Good. I was scared there for a minute. You'd come up and sort of say vodka or something. It's like, you didn't get the joke, did you? No.
Oh, goodness. Learning a lot about myself doing these movies.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, that's it for another podcast. So of course that was number 34. Join us of course next week for podcast 35. And we will leave you as we always leave you every week with Alana Evans and Perfect.